It was a quiet winter night in February of 2019, the kind of night where the air feels heavier and every sound seems sharper. Jamie lived alone in a small rented house on the outskirts of Oregon, the kind of place where the neighbors were distant and streetlights barely reached the front gate. That night, she was curled up on the couch, watching a late-night documentary, when she heard it. 3 slow, deliberate knocks at the front door. At first, she thought it might have been the wind, or maybe an animal brushing against the wood. But then, it came again. Slower this time. Louder. And that's when her stomach dropped, because no one ever came to visit that late. Jamie muted the TV. The silence that followed was suffocating. She looked at the clock. 12:47 a.m. Another knock echoed through the house, this time softer, almost polite. She whispered to herself, maybe it's a lost driver. But deep down, she knew that didn't make sense. There were no main roads nearby. Jamie hesitated, then got up slowly and approached the door. Her footsteps felt painfully loud on the wooden floor. When she reached the peephole, she froze. There were 2 figures standing on her porch, completely still. No movement, no talking, just standing there. Both wore dark hoodies, their faces hidden in shadow. One of them raised their hand and knocked again, 3 times. Her instinct screamed at her not to open the door. Instead, she stepped back and quietly turned off the living room lamp, hoping they'd think no one was home. But after a few seconds, she heard whispering. Faint, muffled voices like the 2 were arguing softly outside her door. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her ears. Then, a new sound. The doorknob rattled. Just once. Gently. As if someone was testing if it was unlocked. Jamie covered her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, whispering to the operator what was happening. The operator told her to stay on the line, lock herself in a room, and wait for police. But before Jamie could move, she heard it. A second set of footsteps moving around the side of her house. Now there were 2 different sounds. Knocks at the front door and faint tapping at her back window. Jamie whispered into the phone, "They're trying to get in." The operator's tone grew serious. "Stay where you are. Officers are on their way. Do not make a sound," but it was too late for silence. Her dog, Milo, started barking uncontrollably from the kitchen, and the moment his bark echoed through the house, everything outside went silent again. No more knocks, no whispers, just the low hum of her refrigerator and the sound of her own ragged breathing. Minutes passed. Maybe 10, maybe 20. Jamie couldn't tell anymore. The only light came from her phone screen shaking in her trembling hands. Then, something appeared outside her window. At first, it looked like a shadow shifting, but then she saw it. A face, pale, expressionless, eyes staring directly at her through the glass. Jamie screamed and stumbled backward. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. The face vanished instantly, but she heard hurried footsteps outside running toward the back of the house. Then came another knock, this time at the bedroom door. Her body froze, every muscle in her chest locked up. There was no way someone could be inside. She had locked everything. But the knock came again. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, identical to the ones at the front door. Then silence. A voice called faintly from outside the house. "This is the police." "Is anyone inside?" Jamie hesitated, unsure if it was real. But then she saw the red and blue lights flashing through the curtains. When she finally opened the door, 2 officers stood there, weapons drawn. They searched the property immediately, but found nothing. No footprints in the snow, no tire marks, no sign anyone had ever been there. But when one of the officers looked closely at her front door, he pointed out something chilling. fresh fingerprints around the doorknob, and at least one set looked child-sized. Jamie moved out a month later. She couldn't sleep in that house again. The police never found out who those people were, or how one of them could have reached her bedroom door. 2 weeks after she left, the new tenants reported something strange to the landlord. At 1 a.m., someone had knocked on their front door 3 times. When they checked the camera footage, they saw 2 shadowy figures standing perfectly still at the porch. And as one of them leaned closer to the camera, they whispered a single word: "Jamie."